Certain project management challenges trip up organizations all the time. And in this video, I'm going to dissect what those challenges are and give you strategies that you can implement in your projects. Challenge 1, unclear direction. This unfortunately is happening all the time in every single organization where they have an idea or an initiative, they want to execute a project, but they, being senior executives, are not clear on exactly what it is that everyone is supposed to do. So guess what happens? That unclear direction starts to trickle down to the people who are executing who still have unclear direction. And a lot of assumptions are made. It's through those assumptions that we create many issues to a point where projects either fail or there's tons of rework costing the organization more money. So what's the solution to combat this? Well, number one, have executives be very clear with what they want, which is really important, right? To ensure that they're understanding what's supposed to have happen. But then number two is the project manager. When you get your marching orders, and if you can't change your culture in your organization with senior executives giving you unclear direction, then you need to step up to the plate and you need to get clear direction. And you do that by really fleshing out the scope of what it is, whatever it is that you are doing. Before we get into more project management challenges, I have this for you that I created based on my experience, and that's to help you to ensure that you stop struggling with your projects. You're going to want to get this, and how do you get it? There's a link below this video. Challenge number 2, scope creep. Now, what is scope creep? Scope creep is uncontrolled changes to your project, either done directly from a stakeholder who's trying to get more things onto your project without understanding ramifications, or unknowingly a project manager accepts those changes without thinking through the bigger picture. So scope creep has major negative impact to organizations because it impacts a timeline, budget, deliverables, expectations of a project. It just is something you just don't want to go down that path. So how do you solve scope creep? Because I promise you, the very simple thing when you have a senior executive saying, hey, Adriana, come on over here. Do you think you have the ability to just add this very simple thing into the project? That's scope creep. So you have to nip that in the bud because it has huge negative impact. So how do you do that? Well, you institute a change control process, which ensures that when people want to make changes, you have a very systematic way to take a look at it. You also have to investigate what those changes are, because that's going to have impact as to whether or not you accept them. So really understanding and identifying is going to be critical to ensure you eliminate scope creep. Before we jump into the next tip, not only do I have this free content here on YouTube, I have this. If you want to go to the next step with me and you want to learn more at a premium level, you can enroll in Slay Project Management. It's the exact process I use for all my clients, including all the tools you'll need. I've put the link in the description box below. Challenge number 3, lack of accountability. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard in my Slay Project Management Pro group coaching calls that major problem that all project managers have, that lack of accountability from their team members. It creates actually a lot of stress and problems within the project because project managers are then doing tons of chasing, or as like we like to say, herding of cats, just to get information that you need so that you can start reporting it accordingly and ensuring that everything's on track. So accountability is one of the cornerstones of really good project management, of ensuring things are run smoothly. So you really want to nip this one in the bud. So how do you solve this lack of accountability? Well, the cool thing is it's all in how you set things up. And this is what I teach my students in my Slay Project Management course and the advice and guidance I give in my coaching call program. And that is, you need to set things up from the beginning. You have to be very clear with the expectation of how you expect everyone to work. And it's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street. You provide your expectations and then you hear back from your project team what they would like from you as well. And is everyone in agreement? And so really setting up those expectations from the beginning, having a really good project documentation like a WBS action plan that is also a communication tool so they can communicate to you and give you updates and be accountable for the tasks that they own. All of those things together really help with accountability. And so that's something that is critical to your success as a project manager. Challenge number 4, unrealistic deadlines. what happens is executives have an idea, they have a concept, and when they think of these concepts and ideas, they're like, oh my goodness, I love it. I want this implemented in 6 months, 3 months, whatever it may be. And what happens is we then get those marching orders, and of course they're not clear, and we have this deadline. And those unrealistic deadlines can cause tons of stress and issues for the project if they don't get vetted out properly. So it becomes really important as a project manager that we nip this in the bud. So how do we solve the issue of executives having very unrealistic deadlines when it comes to the initiatives and ideas that they want implemented into a project? Well, you need to get really, really clear with them on what exactly it is they want. You need to go into your Slay project management program and pull out your scope template and sit down with them and literally go through everything and get clear with, is this going to be realistic? Even just at the first blush, you may know right away, yay or nay, but then you also have to let them know, okay, now that I have this from you, this information, I'm going to build out the project charter. And when I launch it with the project team, we're going to do one more vetting to confirm whether or not these deadlines that you think are possible are actually possible. When you do it in that sequencing of events, it has a huge positive impact because you've already from day one set up the expectation that that timeline may change, and that you as a project manager, someone whose expertise is bringing projects to fruition and probably from your own experience, can say whether or not that's realistic enough or realistic or not. So you really do have to be the voice of the reason for the organization, because again, people get excited and they want things implemented right away, but it just may not be possible. And so it's your job to bring things back to reality. Challenge number 5, unengaged stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders? Anybody who touches a project. Okay, they can be your project team members, they can be your sponsors, executives, the customer, the client who's receiving the end user who may be the ones experiencing what you're going to be delivering, anyone who touches the project. So if you have unengaged stakeholders, particularly with your project team, you do not want that. You want people to be engaged with what you're doing, because if they're engaged from the beginning, it's going to assure at the end of the project, they're not going to poke their head out of the sand and going, wait a minute, like a groundhog. Hey, I see my shadow, don't like it, change everything, but you've already done it all. So you need to bring in that buy-in from day one. And you do it in stages. You don't bring everybody in on the same time. So your solution to getting engaged stakeholders is to start the process of stakeholder engagement and really understand how you're going to communicate with them. First thing you got to do is you have to identify them. Who are they? They're your sponsor, they're your executives. Identify the people and then understand what type of information they need. And then you slowly roll out your engagement plan. So your first engagement plan is always with senior executive and sponsors. You got to get really clear with what it is that they want. Your second rollout with engagement plan is going to be your steering committee. They're going to remove all your roadblocks. Your third engagement plan is going to be with your project team members. They're probably the one that you really want to get a really solid, good engagement plan with. That's setting up the expectations, understanding what they need to do, how you guys are going to communicate, etc. And then you have other engagement plans that you're going to roll out depending on the end user, the department, etc. But it's really important that you don't think of this last, because it will nip you in the and you don't want that. You want to ensure from day one everyone's on the same page. It may feel like a little bit of work, but I promise you the energy and effort at the beginning stages of doing this is going to ensure you don't have any unexpected surprises that are going to pop up for you, which is going to create more work down the road of your project. Now, don't forget to get those tips so that your projects can be successful, and the link is underneath this video. Watch this next video. It's a guide on how to save a failing project. On that note, if you can subscribe to this channel, like this video if you found the content helpful, and we'd love to hear from you in the comments below.